So we are joined from Plaquemine, Louisiana, Dow Chemical, uh, by chemical engineer Deonante Frazier,
Mhm.
salutatorian of the class of 2015 Raymond High School, one of the greatest students I ever had the pleasure to have. And we thank you so much for being with us today. I got a room full here with me at Belma Jackson High School. We're recording
Mhm.
this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Rosa Scott, Madison Central, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So as we're in the STEM career cluster, we thank you again for taking some time for us today.
No problem. I'm very honored to be here.
So before we talk about all the things you've done at Dow, when I met you in 2014 as a senior, your
Mhm.
plan was to go to Mississippi State and
Correct.
major in computer science. And even though you did go to Mississippi State, your
Mhm.
degree was not in computer science. So at Raymond High School, you were in the band, you were the salutatorian, you
Mhm.
did a lot of things to prepare for college, but your college path didn't go exactly how you planned. So take us through that because it was interesting to hear.
Yeah. So when I got to college, I did a program called Summer Bridge. It was a transitionatory program for high school students before they get to the rigor of a 4 year education. Usually some people do community college, but and that's a good transition into it. But they wanted something to where students can have a taste of 4 years of the 4 year university lifestyle without hurting their actual grades. So in that program, we did a lot of introductory engineering courses, just so you can get a flavor of everything. And we were doing this computer project, and as I was coding the for the project, I realized, I kind of like chemistry a little bit better. Now, mind you, chemical engineering isn't just chemistry, but in my mind at that point, I enjoyed the chemistry aspect more than I did the computer aspect. And also the chemical engineering faculty and staff at Mississippi State was they were very welcoming and very open, and that just really drew me towards the program. And really, after weighing my options, I realized, once going into engineering, you really couldn't lose in my mind. So I went on and made that swap, and my passion for computers hadn't left. I'm looking to ways to marry the two now. So it's been very, very interesting.
Yeah, and I remember when you were getting ready to graduate, you were telling me that you had to buy a laptop just to be a part of this program at Mississippi State. So I think
Yeah.
that's something that a lot of people don't understand is, you want to get into these programs, you need to understand the commitment that it's going to take to be in that
Right.
program.
Right. It's very important. And even the laptop that you mentioned, I wanted to, not coming from a family that had a whole bunch of money, I wanted to get something that was, not as top of the line, but I realized, like if this is my future, I have to invest and I have to put work and money into it. So I ended up, finding more scholarships and, doing some work on tutoring work on the side. I actually had to get a new computer from the computer I told you about, just because I wanted to be sure that that computer could keep up. Because it's important to invest in yourself, and the stuff that you put in is the stuff you get out. So if you put in garbage, you're ultimately going to get out garbage. So, yeah.
Yeah, and while you were at Mississippi State, I talk about this often. You had an unbelievable GPA and the GPA side, the academic side, obviously is important. But you were involved in several student organizations. I know you were a part of NESB, and you
Yeah.
had the opportunity to do an internship in Belize. So,
Mhm.
talk about some of the benefits of being involved on a campus because you can't just go to class and then go back to your dorm room or go home. So,
Right.
talk about why it's so important to be involved in so many programs while you're in college.
I will say that my GPA is great. GPA is great, but networking is ultimately what helped me get a job. So kind of going all the way back from Summer Bridge, like networking starts right when you begin your college career. I joined Summer Bridge, and Summer Bridge was in part funded by Dow, which is the company I work for now. And I did a lot of networking there, with the Dow employees that were working with the program. Fast forward from that, I did an internship at another company, and that company didn't have a job. but thanks to the networking and the groups that I had been in, I was able to go to the NSB National Conference, and that was in Pittsburgh that year. I went there and I was able to talk to the Dow employees there who
Wow.
I had never known, but I was, name dropping people that I knew. And I was like, I did this program and I did that program. And that was one of the easiest interviews I ever had. They were like, oh, you have so many connections in the company, like come do an interview, right? And my GPA helped me get my foot in the door, but ultimately what got me to the interview desk was networking.
Yep.
And to talk a little bit about Belize, because I did those the NSB group during my summer bridge, I was able to meet Dr. Riddell. She was an instrumental part of my career at Mississippi State. She had connections to the Lewis Stokes Minority Alliance program, which helped a lot of students from HBCUs and other institutions within Mississippi to go on research programs. So I was able to go to Belize and study geographical informational systems. It's something I don't
Wow.
do every day, but looking to see how the population affected a watershed. And students who are also in the program did a lot of other different research that I didn't get a chance to do. But again, like GPA is just it's an indicator that you can learn and an indicator that you can retain what you're learning. But those soft skills that you learn in groups are going to be so critical to whatever you do.
Yeah, even if you don't go into engineering, I know they get sick of me talking about it, but being able to go up to people and introduce yourself, be able to say I worked in this program, I have experience doing XYZ, that's going to go along with that GPA, and that's just so vital. And I think I've always wanted to go to Belize. I think that's so cool. There's not a lot of people from Utica, Mississippi, that have had a chance to go to Belize, so that is an unbelievable opportunity. And NSBE is such a great thing to get involved in. I know Jackson State has a great chapter, LSU, Ole Miss. Pretty
Mm-hmm.
much all the big universities that have an engineering program have a great NSBE chapter, and they do so much to get young people into these engineering fields.
Oh yeah, it's a great opportunity to be able to actually go to different conferences and be able to talk to people and give people your resumes, because that's a skill in and of itself, like being able to sell yourself. That like I've met many smart people at Mississippi State with high GPAs, like never seen a B in their life, but they couldn't talk. They couldn't explicate themselves. And if you can't talk and if you can't communicate with your fellow person, then what's the point? You know.
Yeah. Now, Dow Chemical, I know you've been there since 2019, so you're coming up on 6 years there. One of the largest chemical producers in the world. But just because you're at a chemical company, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the only place chemical engineers can work. Literally, and honestly, I did not realize this till recently. Chemical engineers touch pretty much everything that is manufactured that we have. Anything that has paint in it, anything that has any type of coloring in it, any type of chemical that has to be mixed, a chemical engineer has to touch it at some point. Even the toothpaste we use in the morning, a chemical engineer
Mhm.
had a huge hand in uh in producing that. So talk about what you do at Dow and some of the
Mhm.
other things that are available for chemical engineers, because I don't think people realize that it is so vast.
Yeah, I will say it's really interesting to bring that up, because engineering in and of itself is more of like an analytical mindset. Like chemical engineering at its core is understanding the basis of chemistry and then applying that basis of chemistry to physical or physics application. So how does a chemical flow through a pipe? How are pressure and temperature related? And you can take those principles and really apply it to any sector that you want to. So particularly here at Dow Chemical, we do a lot of things revolving in like hydrocarbon sectors. So propane, ethane, making that into propylene, making that into ethylene. But we also do a lot of derivatives from that. So that's mean making plastics, making propylene glycol, the plastics that you use in your on your food, like when you buy chicken or something like that, that single plastic film, Dow Chemical may have produced that. Or if you look at the Unstoppables from Downey, right? The little bees that you use, Dow may have produced that. Or if
Yeah.
you, yeah, or if you actually look at your Adidas shoes, right? If you look at the foam at the bottom of the Adidas shoes, Dow makes that as well, right?
Wow.
So chemical engineers are really in a lot of different niche spots, but the thing that a lot of people don't understand is that just because you may have a chemical engineering degree doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be doing chemical engineering applications. So I do have some friends who have chemical engineering degrees. They go to chemical plants, but they do more coding, right? Which would you would think a computer engineer would do. But again, that GPA and that engineering degree shows that you can learn and shows that you can retain information quickly and you can really apply that to anywhere else you go. So you can use that information and you can learn on the spot, you know. So having that engineering degree really opens the doors to a lot of things.
Yeah, and something that I didn't know until recently, when you pass by any type of plant and you see the flumes above the
Mm-hmm.
plant, depending on the chemical, is how high those flumes go above the roof because of the way the chemicals flow through the pipe, like you said. So a chemical
Mm-hmm.
engineer basically has to make sure everybody doesn't get blown up in a plant because of the way the chemical travels. I had no idea about that until recently.
Yeah, I there was this guy who graduated from Mississippi State in the engineering program or in the engineering building. They have his plaque on the hallways as you walk through, and he always mentions that there isn't a pass or well, there isn't an A or a B in the real world. They're either a pass or a fail. You know, people actually get hurt, or you actually do the thing right. So it's very important that you know take everything seriously and take your job seriously. As far as chemical engineers are concerned, you know, we have to make sure that you know things doesn't get over pressured, that you don't have too much pressure on one vessel and accidentally create something that can explode, you know, and making sure that you know the plumes that you see coming out are usually just steam, right? We want to make sure that we're not releasing a whole bunch of chemicals, right? Mainly, we want to keep all the chemicals that we have contained or incinerated to a degree where we're not really affecting or hurting the environment.
Wow.
You know, as things comes up, or you know, as regulations come out, we try to ensure that we're keeping everything sustainable, that we're keeping everything to a degree where it's not impacting the public at large because these products are needed for everyday consumption and everyday use, but these products can be made sustainably and without hurting the environment.
Big time. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, you went to college right out of high school. You went to Mississippi State, did the 4 year degree thing. But we have a lot of kids that maybe say, I don't know if I'm a college person. I don't know if I'm a 4 year college person. I want to do the community college route. So, what are some of the trades and skills that you see there at Dow that maybe don't require a degree, but are still very needed and very high paying?
So I always say that the lifeline of any plant are your operators. You can go to a a community college, get a process technology degree, 2 years, and you can be like some of the operators at some of the facilities that I've worked at are clearing 100, 150, 200 a year, doing overtime, you know, working in a fulfilling role that you're where you're needed. You know, this isn't just some role where you're pushing buttons and not thinking like you're making active decisions and your job can actually hurt other people or help other people, right? This is a full career that you can do. So being an operator can be a great opportunity for you to make good money, to have an impact. Not only being an operator, but you know, doing welding. Welding is a huge thing in chemical plants. You know, if you weld at night, you make extra money. If you weld on holidays, you make extra money. Like welders make a lot of money and they're really needed. Certain things in chemical plants can't just be, screwed together. They have to be welded for, environmental reasons, because some of the chemicals that you work with, the molecules are so small, they can just, eep out of the flanges that you have. So they have to be welded, right? And so welding is a big, big thing, doing pipe fitting. Pipe fitters are also a necessary part of a chemical engineer plant. And once kind of do some of those trades, I've met engineers who were doing those trades at these chemical plants, and they're like, I'm really interested in the things that I'm putting together. They actually go back to school, get their engineering degree, and then they become the best engineers because not only do they
Wow.
have the technical knowledge, they're putting things together, right? And so
Wow.
once you have that double combo, I mean, you're unstoppable. But I will most definitely say, I think a lot of people don't talk about the need for operators and how vital they are to a chemical plant and how much money they can really make.
Yeah, and I know Hines, Holmes, East Central all have machinist
Oh
tech
yes.
programs, and I know especially with all these places becoming more automated and
Mm-hmm.
more AI and robotic driven, machinists are going to be one of the highest paid trade jobs in America in the next 10 years. And
Exactly.
you can mark my words, I'm telling you, machinists are going to be where it's at. And if you don't want to go to college and you want to work in this field, you can become a machinist and you can make a lot of money.
Yes. I mean, in every chemical plant you're going to find a pump, you're going to find something that's dealing with mechanical rotating equipment. These things are needed. I can point to a pump outside in my plant that, like, okay, we cannot run without this pump. I personally can't go out there and fix the pump. I may can do calculations around the pump, but I don't know how to fix it, right? And so everybody has their niche that they fit in, but most definitely the people that are doing the physical work and actually fixing things, right, they are really and truly part of the lifeline of the plan. And I think it's very important to let students know that, you may, if doing all these math equations may not be your cup of tea, there's plenty of other ways to make a lot of good money in these fields.
Big time. Now, before I get to the students' questions, one thing I do want to talk about, and I've been teaching 12 years now, and I actually reference you a lot because it always used to amaze me how you were such a great student, but people made fun of you all the time for oh, he's just a nerd. He thinks he's smart. He's just trying to be smarter than everybody. And I'm
Mhm.
like, why would he not? So especially, we need more young men to be successful of every race, but especially we need more young black men to be successful. So, I was always had a lot of respect for the way you handled that in high school because it is a crazy time. But I'm always like, look, he had the last laugh because he's got a great job now. So,
Yeah.
as you were dealing with that in high school, what was your motivation to to not fall into the peer pressure and stay such an excellent student and then ultimately become the salutatorian, which led to all kind of scholarships?
Yeah. One of the things that helped me stay motivated is, again, the need for, like you said, more people that didn't fall prey to what everybody was saying, right? I mean, to me, not even the aspect of just having a great job, which, I mean, to be completely honest, that's what everybody really goes to school for, to get a good education, to get a good degree. But I just wanted to be more of a role model where people can say, okay, like he really didn't listen to what everybody was saying and he followed his own path. That motivated me because I didn't want to just be what everybody else was doing. I wanted to make my own path. And plus, part of that is wanting to see other people come up as a result. Like, how can me doing this or getting this engineering degree help other people in the long run? That's me paying it back, and all the studying that I was doing not just helped me. I was able to tutor some of my friends and things and help them get better degrees and get better grades, and that helped me as a result. So just really paying it back to my community and not fall into what everybody else was doing was my major motivation.
Yeah, and as like I said, obviously you were a great student, but we're a small country area as well. Utica, Mississippi is that's where you're from, but that's also a small rural area, and you still made the most of your opportunity. So it obviously can be done.
Yeah.
But I do have some questions. I got these are really good, so I'm gonna get to many of these as I can.
Okay.
I, I like this one. This is Justice Conway. She's in ninth grade, one of our
Mhm.
basketball players. And she asked, does your company deal with any food items or is it just chemicals?
Yeah, we deal with food grade items. Some of the food grade items I don't particularly know all about. I do know we do a lot of packaging for food grade items. And with food grade items come with more stringent, like stringent regulations, meaning, no other food or drink in the area, making sure that you have, equipment that's clean and things as such. But we mainly do a lot of the packaging, like I had mentioned earlier, with the single-use plastics on chicken products. My company does a lot of that, and we also do some fillers and things as such. But that's a lot more niche part of my company that I'm not a part of. Once you get into like these bigger companies, the companies are split off into different businesses, and some of the businesses don't really interact with each other, but that creates the whole of the company. So, me personally, I'm more in the chemical sector, but the company does do a lot of other ventures like that.
I like this one. This is Mila McCullough, one of our Blue Diamond dancers here. And
Mhm.
she asked, how do chemical engineers contribute to environmental sustainability?
So a lot of chemical engineers are on the cusp of where, we've had all of these precedents of us making these materials and making all of these things that we're used to. Think of the world without plastic. That's pretty hard to imagine, right? But now we're at this intersection where we're trying to learn how to make things sustainable while also learning how to make it at a, commercial rate. And so that's where a lot of chemical engineers are in the research based area where they're making, bio based plastics or plastics from, plant derived materials instead of petrochemical materials, right? And my company is making strides to be able to make plastic from bio stock and bio feed. So chemical engineers are at a really interesting intersection right now, and a lot of this stuff is, I would say, new. We're really trying to learn how to work with the environment to get a lot of things created. So it's an emerging field that we need bright young minds, like you guys, to be able to really help us scale those products up.
Absolutely. I like this one. This is Zion Chambers. He's one of our basketball players. He asked, how do chemical engineers ensure safety in chemical plants and processes?
So, that differs from each company. We have overarching government agencies that have guidelines, but our company here, our guidelines are more stringent than the government guidelines because we want to ensure that not only we're doing what we need to do from a governmental standpoint, but we're keeping everybody safe. So, there's a lot of aspects that you can go down, but one of the aspects I like to go down is management of change. So before anything gets changed in a chemical plant, we do this thing called a MOC. It's called management of change, and we write in the MOC what we're going to change because a change can create big implications if everyone is not aware of it, right? So we get all of the appropriate people to sign off. We get safety people to sign off. We get leadership to sign off. We get other engineers to sign off because one person can make a mistake. They want to implement a change, but they didn't think of everything all the way through. So the MOC is a process where everyone can put their information in so they can think about the change. So if someone misses something, someone else can catch it. And so it's one of our ways to ensure that everybody has a say and to ensure that the mistake doesn't fall on one person.
Big time. And I think and that goes back to you talked about the soft skills. You may have all the knowledge in the world. You got to work with the team. When you've got people's
Right.
lives at stake, you've got millions of dollars at stake. One
Mm-hmm.
mistake could be catastrophic. So that's why you've got to learn to communicate with people. You've got to learn to communicate what the issues are. So that is a great point. All right, I like this one. This is Sanaya Norman, one of our cheerleaders. She asked, "What are the main responsibilities of a chemical engineer?"
Ooh, so chemical engineering can be very, very broad. I will say my main responsibility. So update for you. So I know I told you I was in Plaquemine earlier, but now I'm in Texas. I recently got a new job in the same company. Um,
What part of Texas are you in?
I am close to Houston, but I'm working in the Freeport area. And
Okay.
so and so my priorities have changed, even in the same company. So at first, I was working on big, large scale projects. It was a project to help extend the life of a plant for 10 years. That project featured 76 projects revolving around making sure things are safe, installing protective equipment in case something goes wrong, um, and I did that for about 3 years. And now I'm in a production role where I'm helping to ensure that a plant stays running reliably. And so I've been in this role for about 4 or 5 months. And
Cool.
so now I'm, constantly looking at the plant, making sure everything looks normal. And I'm still in the learning phase. So I'm conferring to the technical advisors here, the operation experts. And again, may I reiterate, these are people that did not go and get their engineering degree, but they have spent time in the plant. They got their process technology degree. And now me, a 4 year engineering student, or a 4 year engineering graduate, are conferring to them because they know more about the process than I
Yeah.
do because they worked on it hands on. So again, I wouldn't. I'm stressing to the students, like, there's plenty of avenues that you can go down. But not to get too far off the subject, I'm working with them to be able to run the plant well. They give me their input, and I'm also getting input from leadership to make decisions about the plant to ensure that we're meeting our quality specifications on things that we need to meet it on, that the plant is running at a normal state. And that's what I do. I have a friend who's also a chemical engineer, and she works hand in hand with me to make sure that we're keeping our environmental regulations in check. She's
Oh.
looking at our environmental permits and making sure that we're not emitting something that we shouldn't be emitting, that we're adhering to the rules that the government set forth. So there's many niches of what you can go down as a chemical engineer, and that rings true for civil engineers, computer engineers, electrical engineers. It's such a big world in engineering that you don't have to stay in one box.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned environmental engineering. I know Mississippi State has really pushed that program lately because there's never been a bigger need for them.
Right.
But I'm glad you mentioned. I had no idea you were in the Houston area, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
But I know Dow is based in the Detroit area, but that is advantage. I hear kids say all the time they want to get out of these areas. Great companies like Dow and some of these big multinational corporations, if they see you're a great employee, you'll have the opportunity to move to these other cities. So I know
Mm-hmm.
Dow has locations all over the world. So if you wanted to move to Europe or South America, theoretically you could because Dow has a presence there and you've proven yourself in the company.
Yeah. I mean, Dow can help you relocate. Not only Dow, but other companies. They help their engineers relocate. They help, you not only relocate but get citizenship in that country if need be. And they mainly can help you pay for their relocation. I've had leadership to tell me about their experiences and where they've brought houses and now help them, settle
Wow.
their houses and stuff like that. So it's a great opportunity to see the world and to see other parts that you haven't seen before.
All right, I got time for one more. This is Azaya Ray. She's a member of our band. I know you were a great trumpet player back in your day.
Yeah.
Uh, she asked, "What do you enjoy most about your career?"
I enjoy the people aspect and working together to find opportunities. Like in high school and in college, it was more so individualized. Like you'll study and you'll get a grade, and that's about it. But here, you don't have to really depend on yourself as much because it's a team. And I had to learn that, I can depend on others and work with others. Because to be honest with you, Coach Pike, I really didn't like team projects, in high school and in college, because mainly I end up doing a lot of the work, right? But here in the real world, like you have people that are like knowing a lot of good stuff and they bring a lot to the table, right? So learning how to lean on my teammates and then allowing teammates to lean on me has been a great experience that has lifted a lot of the stress.
Absolutely. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us. I know we've done this before as well, but just one thing before we go.
Mhm.
And I asked you this last time, and I asked this from everybody of your graduating class of 2015 at Raymond, because I think it's interesting. You were sitting, even though it was a different school, you were sitting exactly where everybody in this room with me is sitting at one point, and it was can't believe it's about to be 10 years ago. So,
I know.
um, and that class you were in is still to this day my favorite class I've ever had in all my years of teaching. We had some incredible conversations. We had some great students in there. But I asked you this before. I want to hear your answer again. Uh,
Mhm.
this is for everybody that's sitting in here. From somebody that used to sit in front of me as a student. How much of what I told you was going to happen in your life after high school actually happened?
A lot of, I mean, you have to, I think back to the conversations we've had and the people that you put in front of us to talk to us. And these are people, and you included, that have went through high school, went through college, and are now living the real life. And even though it may not click right now, like those conversations and those stories are gonna come back to you. And like, oh, Coach Pike said that, or he brought somebody in that talked about that, right? So it's good to pay attention, and even if you're not understanding it completely right now, it's gonna come. It's gonna come back. And so I would most definitely say use these opportunities where you have really good teachers that care about you and that are going beyond what they have to teach you, like to take advantage of that and to stay connected to those teachers, because those are the people that are really invested in your career and invested in you. Like I can't say that I've had many teachers in my life. I can't say there are teachers that reach back out to me and say, hey Deonante, how are you doing, like Coach Pike does, right? And that's been, like he said, 10 years ago. So most definitely take advantage of when you have a teacher that is committed and wanting to see you succeed. Stick with that teacher and tell them how you're doing and get life advice from them. And once you get older, maybe you can pay it forward. So I'm honored for you to ask me to do these things, because in my mind it's me paying it back to you for helping me and helping my classmates get through life and get to the next level. So I really want to thank you as well.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm still so proud to have called you a student. You're one of the greatest students I've had in my career. So glad to see everything you're doing, and we thank you so much for taking some time for us today. Deonante Frazier, 2015 Raymond High School salutatorian, all the way from Houston, Texas, there at Dow Chemical. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem. Thank y'all.
All right, talk to you soon, buddy.